Hi, this is Miss Nuria again. It's so nice to be back talking about literature and books with all of you guys. So last unit we talked about stories, we talked about physicality, we talked about how to express ourselves. And I know that you're very smart and that now you really understand that. So we're going to move forward on this unit and we're going to be talking about two things: genres of literature. How can we express different emotions, moods, and atmospheres? And number two, instead of doing it with a storybook, we're gonna be doing it with poems. So I'm very excited. This first video, we're gonna be exploring how can we know that what we're seeing and what we're reading is a poem, and what makes a poem a poem. What is poetry? Poetry is one of the ways in which we can use language to express emotions and feelings. It is one of the deepest ways in which we use literature. Usually, it uses words in a way that sometimes don't make much sense or are not very clear, because what we care most about is the emotions. When we do poetry, we like to make our words sound beautiful or intense. We want the reader to really be able to go to the place or the emotion we're talking about. We care more about letting them imagine what we feel, what we smell, what we touch, than making literal sense. Poems are usually shorter and they look in a very particular way. So let's compare. Here I have a novel, and here I have a book of poems. Now, let's look at the novel. The novel is written in prose. You see, we can see the paragraphs, the lines go all the way to the end of the page, and they continue underneath, unless we have a full stop. Yes? And it just continues and continues and continues. Now, let's look at my book of poems. When I open it on any random page, the author is cutting the lines and our paragraphs are shorter. In poetry, the paragraphs are called verses and the lines are called stanzas. Poetry is a kind of literature and of art, and as any kind of literature, it has different genres. We'll talk more about genres next week, but overall, genres are just the mood of our story or the mood of our poem, and it changes depending on the content, the form, and the style. The genre we're going to talk about today is horror. Do you know what horror is? Horror is a feeling of revulsion following something that is frightening, like a sound or a sight or an experience. It's also the dread and the anticipation of something that we don't know. What are we scared of? What are you afraid of? People can be afraid of different things. For example, the unknown. What's the unknown? Things we don't know, like aliens in the sky, or maybe a dark room in a place that is new. The mysterious. We are also afraid of things that we have no control over. For example, airplanes or boats. A lot of people are scared of heights or elevators or places that are very closed or places that are very open, like the deep blue sea. We're also scared of unpleasant things, things that in the past have made us feel bad, like going to the dentist or going on a roller coaster. And lastly, we're also scared of the surprise or a shock. Yes? So let's look at some examples of horror. The following is a scene in a TV show where there are these angel statues that if you blink or if you turn away, they will move and get closer to you and catch you and take you away. So let's look at that.
Oh God. It's locked.
So that was scary. It's a great example of shock. Now the next thing is more about something that is mysterious and unknown. It's from a movie called Paranorman. And in this movie, our character, Norman, he's going into a house to look for something.
Hello? Mr. Prendergast?
As you can see, what is scary about this scene is not the things that we can see, but the things that we cannot see. The house is dark, he's by himself, he's using his phone, but it doesn't have a lot of light. So what really scares Norman in this scene is the things that he cannot see, the things he cannot understand. So lastly, we're going to watch a scene from a movie called Monster House. And I don't know if you have seen it, but this one is more of being scared of what is completely out of the natural, we don't have any control over, and basically it's something that we cannot understand because we have never seen it before. So let's look at that.
No! Judy!
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Oh, I think I'm having a stroke.
I'm too young to die!
Jenny! I've always loved you!
Okay, so let's stop and reflect for a second. Okay, let's think. Is there anything specific that I find scary? And if there is it something that is unpleasant or something that is unknown? Also, is there anything specific that other people find scary and I can't understand why? Next, what can I do when I am feeling scared or afraid? Have you ever been scared? And if so, how can you deal with it? Well, there are different ways, but the first thing we need to do is to actually breathe and remind ourselves that we are not in danger and that this is just our body reacting to something that can be unpleasant or that we do not know. Also, we can think of things that we like, or we can think of other situations in which we had to deal with something scary and think, how did we get over that? And finally, what can I do when others are feeling scared and how can I support them and be there for them? Well, we can always give a word of comfort or a hug. So, now that we have learned a little bit about poetry and a little bit about horror, let me show you your poem for this week. Look at it first. We can see the title, and it's called The Creature. How many verses does it have? It has the first one that starts with in the middle, then it has the second one that it says I wake, and the third one that says sometimes. Yes, it has 3 verses. And every verse has 2 stanzas. So I'm going to read it for you and let's see how it goes. Okay, before I read it, quick pause. Remember on our last video that I showed you how to relax our faces, how to warm up our voice. So I'm gonna do that really fast, really fast. The creature. In the middle of the night, in the part that's known as dead, I awake to hear the breathing of the creature neath my bed. Sometimes he growls and threatens me. Sometimes he only stares. Okay, so let's go over the meaning of this poem, because as I said before, sometimes when we look at poems and we read them, they don't make so much of a literal sense, it's more of a symbolic sense. So, the creature. What's this creature that they're talking about? In the middle of the night, in the part that's known as dead. So that means the dead of the night. And the dead of the night is, as they say, the middle of the night. It's when everyone is asleep, everyone's dreaming, no one is doing anything, and it just looks like the city or the town is dead, the dead of the night. I wake to hear the breathing of the creature neath my bed. Neath means underneath. Yes, as we will learn later, poems sometimes cut words or just put them together to give it more of a rhythm, yes? So I wake to hear the breathing of the creature underneath my bed. Yeah, underneath the bed is a place where a lot of children are scared of because we don't know what's in there, right? And then it says, sometimes he growls and threatens me. Sometimes he only stares. And what's really scary about this is, has your mom ever been angry at you? When our mom is angry at us and she's screaming and she's like, why are you so bad? And why did you do this? And why did you do that? And she's like, I'm going to take your Xbox away. You're like, oh, that's, my mom's really mad. Or your teacher, you're gonna have no recess, 0 for everyone. You're like, oh, they are quite angry. But what's really scary is when your mom or your teacher just goes, and they just stare at you, and you don't know what they're thinking. You just know that they're looking at you, and that's what's really scary about this poem. So I would like you to read this poem again and think about the images in this poem. Is it a bright poem? Can you see it in a garden? No, it's a dark poem. It's in the middle of the night. It's under the bed. It's growling and threatening, but it's also just a stare. So let's read it one more time all together. I'll just put it here, and yeah, we can follow together. The creature. In the middle of the night, in the part that's known as dead, I wake to hear the breathing of the creature neath my bed. Sometimes he growls and threatens me. Sometimes he only stares. So, I'll leave you to reflect on that, and I'll see you next time.